One pattern unlocks 90% of Chinese, but nobody really teaches it. There's a word that appears in almost every Chinese sentence, and every native speaker I've asked can't properly explain what it actually does. In fact, even if you look it up in the dictionary, it makes no sense. Then, just, only, already, precisely, exactly, right away, immediately, as soon as, even if, in that case, regarding, merely, simply, at once, soon, enough, about to, so be it, right. 20 translations for one word. So what does it actually do, and how does it unlock Chinese? I'm Sheldon, and my team and I at Cantonese and Mandarin have helped over 600 Cantonese speakers improve their Cantonese and learn Mandarin. And this word over here is one of the single biggest unlocks that we found, because using it properly is the biggest thing that separates natives from beginners. And so by the end of this video, you'll be able to understand every single way to use this word to unlock more fluid Chinese. But before we do that, we first have to understand, what does it actually mean? And more importantly, what is this word? Because look at the sentence. When you say I'm coming in a bit, okay, in Mandarin, 我待会就过来. In Cantonese, 我一陣就過嚟. So 我 means I, 一陣待會 means in a bit, 過來 means come. So I'm coming in a bit. So if every single word is covered by those couple words, why is there that random character there? 就 or 早 in Cantonese. See, 就 is what linguists call a function word. Not a noun, not a verb, not a thing or an action. It's the glue that controls the flow of a sentence. Now, the key to understanding its use is knowing that Chinese wasn't made with English in mind. So let's shift to a Chinese perspective and look at what this word actually means from that angle. So the character 就 is made of two parts. 经 in Cantonese or 经 in Mandarin, which means a tall structure, high ground, and 有 or 有 in Mandarin, which means a person moving forward. And so scholars believe this originally depicted a person walking towards something high. And so the classical Chinese meaning, 吹干 in Cantonese or 趋近 in Mandarin, means to approach or to get close to. And that's the unlock. Because remember how we said that in English, 就 or 早 has 20 definitions. Precisely, just, even, blah, 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 blah. The unlock is that in Chinese, it has one meaning, closeness. Here's the simplest way to think about it. Most of the time, 就 just means just. That's how people translate it. And I know that sounds too simple, but watch how far that takes you. 我就是30岁. I'm just 30 years old. 我就是一个人. I'm just a person. 我就是想出去玩. I just want to go out to play. Everyone would translate it just as just. But you're thinking, wait, if it just means just, why not just stop there? Why don't you know about closeness and gaps and all that? See, because just only actually covers some of the 20 definitions. It's actually oversimplified. It doesn't explain how it translates to then, how it translates to enough, how it translates to so be it, but closeness does. And so closeness is a bit more abstract, but it's the one idea that connects all 20. So think of just as your shortcut for the easy ones, and closeness as the key that unlocks the rest. And that's why it's so important to learn, but you can still use the shortcut day to day. All 20 use cases where English would vary it, say, just, precisely, whatever, every use case we're about to look at, in reality, it's just an examination of that one idea, which is closeness, but applied in different scenarios. So now that we have that framework, let's actually dig into all these. So let's start with, for example, the English translations, just, right away, immediately, at once, already, soon, about to, as soon as. There's more than we could possibly name, right? That's 8, okay? 8 English words. But in Chinese, it's all the same thing. Because the first kind of closeness 就 controls is time. I call this one the time magnet because 就 pulls everything closer to now. So think of 就 as like your brain's GPS. It's always saying the same thing. You're close. Close to when something should happen. Close to the natural result. Close to exactly what you mean. Okay, that's the whole pattern. So the GPS with the time is reading close in time. So for example, in Mandarin, let's take out that 就 and just look at the sentence by itself. So 他3歲會讀書了. 他3歲會讀書了. In Cantonese, 佢3歲識讀書了. So 佢他 she 3歲 means 3 years old. 識 會 means can, and then 讀書 means read, and 了 basically indicates like the action was completed, or that a state change, like she achieved that state. That's a topic from a video. That shows she could read at 3. It's just a fact, she reads, cool. Now let's see what happens when you add the 就 here. 他3歲就會讀書了. 佢3歲就識讀書了. Now what it means is she could read at just 3 years old. You could also say she could already read at 3. Both work because both really mean the same thing. So what does that mean exactly? It means like she could read at just 3, right? Keep in mind, the word just tells you that it's closer to the beginning than expected, right? It means that she could read at just 3 years old. She could read at an age that's closer to 0 than you'd expect, basically, is what it's saying. Because you You wouldn't say like, oh, she could read at just 70 years old, right? Ain't nothing impressive about reading at 70 years old, right? But what it does, that just there, is it says it's closer to the beginning than normal. And that's exactly what the 就 is doing here, right? You're saying 她3岁就会读书了. So she could read at 3, which is closer to the beginning than normal. What the 就 is doing for time is it's saying that the gap between the event and now, or the expected time, is closer than would be expected. It's saying that the gap is really small. So she could read at just 3. It's saying that the gap between birth and the age you'd expect her to be able to read is really small. It's really close. Okay, and that's really what it's implying here. So let's get another example. 他18岁上大学了. 他18歲上大學了. 佢18歲上大學了. 佢 he 18歲18歲 18 上大學 means to go to school. 上大學 in Mandarin, and then 了 indicates a change of state. He reached the state where he could go to university at 18. But now if we had the 就, 他18歲就上大學了. 佢18歲就上大學啦. And so the 就 says the gap between starting life and reaching college is small. Most people take longer, but he got there fast. And so that 就 says at just this age. So it says there's a very close gap here in this case. Now let's go back to the first example earlier. I'll come in a bit. 我待會過來 in Cantonese. 我一陣過嚟. So 我 I 一陣待會 means in a bit, and then 過來 means to come. Then we change it to 我待會就過來. 我一陣就過來. So in this case, what that 就 or 就 does there is the gap between the now and when I arrive, when I come, is tiny now. Almost no waiting. It's saying that 我一陣過嚟. It's saying, oh, I'll come in a bit. 我一陣就過嚟. The time between when I come and now is tiny. Okay, almost no waiting. I'll be there in like a second. And so this is where you have all those English definitions, because you can plug in right away, immediately, at once, soon, or about to, and they'd all apply to this one sentence, right? I'll be there immediately, I'll be there soon, I'm about to arrive. All different English words, but they all describe the same thing, which is the time gap between now and arrival is small. And so in Chinese, that one 就 handles them, right? It says that the time gap between now and arrival is very close. So now that's 8 English definitions, right? We have just, already, right away, immediately, at once, soon, about to, as soon as, all one. And honestly, for this first category, you can literally think of it as the word just. She could read at just 3. I just got here. I'm just on my way. I'm just about to head out, right? In English, just makes things feel closer to now, and 就 does the exact same thing. Now you're probably wondering, okay, hey, Sheldon, I get the time gap thing, hopefully you do, but like, how do I know where it slots into the sentence? We'll get to that. I want to first make sure you understand all the close analogies, the idea of it first. But by the way, if you're a Cantonese speaker who is learning this, you might notice from this example that 就 is the same as 早 in Cantonese. And if you already know how to use 早 in Cantonese, it means that you can skip actually pretty much this entire video, because it's used the exact same way in both Cantonese and Mandarin, right? Well, don't skip all of it. There's still one thing that I think you should really take away from this one, but you can skip a lot of this explanation. You already know how to use it, whether you like know specifically how to explain it to this level, but you know how to use it because you know how to use it in Cantonese, right? 我一陣就過嚟, right? 我待會就過來, right? The exact same between Cantonese and Mandarin, which is why if you are a Cantonese speaker and you're learning Mandarin, you can learn a lot faster because you can skip a lot of these like grammar lessons that a lot of people can't skip because of the fact that the languages are so similar. And so if you are that, a Cantonese speaker trying to learn Mandarin, we have an entire free masterclass down below, my gift to you guys, that will show you exactly how you can learn the language faster and easier as a Cantonese speaker. And the best part is that it works even if you can't read or write a single word of Chinese. It's made for ABCs, people who speak some Cantonese but aren't that good at it. So if you want that, link down below, completely free, my gift to you guys. Anyway, let's move on. So that's 8 down. Now let's get a bit more interesting, because the next English translation is then. In that case, so be it, enough. That's 4 more English words, same Chinese meaning, 就 or 早. And it works because the second kind of closeness that 就 controls is logical. So I call this the logic lock, because 就 says the result is locked close to the condition. Think of it this way. In English, if it rains, then we stay inside. That word then, it connects the if to the result, and 就 is Chinese version of then. It just locks 2 together. So here's the example, right? If you study hard, then you'll do well. 如果你努力学习，那你就会考得好. So in Cantonese, 如果你勤力溫習，咁你就會考得好. So 如果 if 你 you 勤力努力 focus 溫習學習 means study 咁那 okay means like so 咁你 you 就 means in this case then, that's the result thing 就會 will 考得好 means, or 考得好 means get a good grade. And so in this case, what it's saying is that 如果你努力學習, okay, 如果你努力溫習，如果你勤力溫習, the cause is close to the result, which is 那你就會考得好. 咁你就會考得好。Let's take another example. 只要虛心會進步. So if you're modest, you'll improve. 只要虛心會進步. So 只要 only need 虛心 modest 會 will 進步 means to improve. Now we add the 就 in there. So 只要虛心就會進步. 只要虛心就會進步. So in this case, we add the 就 there. And what it's saying there is if you're modest, all you need to do is be modest, then you'll improve. It's implying that if we're modest, right, then the result is really close. Without it, it's saying only you need to be modest, will improve. The then is kind of imply, but it's not really there. This emphasis on then. It's saying that the result is really close. And so what it's doing is the 就 is saying that the gap between the condition, which is being modest, and the result, which is improving, is small. One directly leads to the other. Okay, so without the 就, you're listing two separate ideas, but with it, they're connected. Cause locked to the effect. You could translate this as then or in that case, but both describe the same thing, which means the gap between if and then is small. Similar example. Natural consequence. In Mandarin, 吃完了走吧 食完了走了 食完了 or 吃完了 basically indicates 吃 means to eat, 吃完 or 食完 means to finish eating, 了 basically means to accomplish the state of finished eating, and then 走吧 or 走了 means to leave. So when we finish eating, let's go. Now we add in the 就. So 吃完就走吧 吃完就走吧 In Cantonese, 食完就走了 So the first one without the 走 became finished eating, let's go, which is basically just two separate statements. Now it becomes 吃完就走吧 Once you finish eating, let's go. Now a little bit confusing in English, but really all it's saying is that the 就 is saying that the gap between finished and leaving is small. Okay, no waiting around, no gap, finish and go immediately. That's what it's saying here. Now remember, I'm going to show you later on how to put in your sentences, where to put it in, but that's really what it's saying here. That's why it's used as once here. That's why it has so many definitions. Speaking of enough now, sufficiency. Okay, in Mandarin, 一个人够了 one person is enough. In Cantonese, 一个人够了 一个人够了 So 一个人 means one person. So 一个 means one. 一个 in Mandarin, 人 person. 够了 means enough. In this case, it says one person is enough. It's a very simple statement. But then we can make it 一个人就够了 一个人就够了 So now what's that 就 doing here in this case? The 就 says the gap between what you have and what you need is small. In fact, it's zero. You've already met the requirement. So that's your enough gap. That's why it's saying enough here. So 一个人够了 一个人够了 means it's one person is enough. 一个人就够了 What it's saying here is now one person is more than enough. Because what it's saying is now the gap between what you have, which is one person, right, 一个人, and what you need is so close, it's so small, it's basically zero in this case. So that's why 一个人就够了一个人就够了 one person is more than enough. That's the difference here. And so the important thing I want you to do is don't think of it from an English perspective, because in English you have 一个人够了一个人够了 one person is enough 一个人就够了 one person is enough as well. One person is enough, right? It's the same. But if you think of it from a Chinese perspective of what it's doing, it's saying that it's very close, then in that case, it changes it. Next use is acceptance, because another definition of it is, so be it. So in Mandarin, accept the fact that it's lost, right? 丢了, right? It's gone. Let it go. 丢了吧. In Cantonese, 唔見咗, so 唔見 means to lose. 丢 in Mandarin, 唔見咗. 丢了 means basically I lost it. 丢了吧, 唔見咗了, it's just lost. What happens if we add a 就 in there? 丢了就丢了吧. In Cantonese, 唔見咗就唔見咗啦. So the first one says 丢了吧. It's lost, it's lost. The 就 says the gap between what happened and you being okay with it is super close. It's zero. It's gone, fine, it's gone. 唔見咗就唔見咗啦. We're very close to acceptance. Now what it's saying is that the gap between what happened and us being okay with it is very close to zero. It's a very close gap. That's the key thing, close. And so in this case here, it's closeness to acceptance. And that's how it implies, so be it, which is also a definition. So in this case, now we have then, in that case, enough, so be it. We see it's all the same. It's saying the gap between the cause and the effect is small. So you see that it's different English definitions, but it's the same fundamental meaning in Chinese. Before we continue, you now have the time magnet and the logic log. The coolest thing is they actually work together. Let's look at a popular sentence structure. This is called the 依旧 pattern, which is 一就 or Mandarin 依旧. So it's a little bit weird to explain it as just that, but if I give you an example, it makes sense. So here's an example. 他毕业了结婚了 In Cantonese, 佢畢咗業結咗婚 So 他 means she, 畢業了畢咗業 means graduated. Okay, you could also say 畢了業 in Mandarin, that's totally fine as well. And then 結咗婚 means 結婚了 or 結了婚, totally fine as well. Okay, both work. So if you want to make the Mandarin resemble Cantonese more, you can also use that structure in Mandarin as well to make it kind of match the Cantonese one. Now, by the way, this video doesn't cover how to use the la particle here. We covered that in another video. This video just covers this case. So that's why, there's some assumed knowledge here because we have other videos covering this. I assume you're a frequent watcher of this channel. Anyway, 她毕业了，结婚了, graduated, she got married. 佢畢咗業，結咗婚了. So here we have two separate events with no connection. But now we add the 就 in there and that structure, 一 and 就 structure. So 她一畢業就結婚了. Cantonese, 佢一畢業就結咗婚. Break down what this is doing, okay? So 佢, 她, she, right, as you mentioned, 一 means one. But in this case, it's saying it's first. So once this first thing happened, then the next thing happened. So it's saying as soon as she graduated, she married. 一 means as soon as she graduated. As soon as she graduated, she married. And here what that 就 is doing is it's saying that the gap between graduation and marriage is small. But the key thing here is that it's saying it's small both in time, as in it happened fast, as soon as you graduated, got married, but in logic as well, meaning that one directly led to the other, meaning like the graduation led to the marriage. And so that's your kind of like as soon as that we kind of mentioned. Now, fun fact, these two categories, right, the ones that we mentioned, they cover roughly 60% of how 就 appears in everyday Chinese. So that's 12 English definitions down, and they cover 60% of how it's used. And by the way, remember, keep in mind, I'm gonna go through how to know where it slots, but I just want you to understand the logic of it first. But now, before that, let's go into the next English translation, which is exactly, precisely, right, only, merely, simply, even. 7 more, and yes, these are all closeness. Because 就 doesn't just control time and logic, it controls how precise you are and how small something feels. So I call these the spotlight and the shrinker. So the spotlight, what it does is it emphasizes closeness when the gap between what you mean and what you say is 0. When the gap between what you mean and what you say is very close. And so it's the difference between like, I want this one and I want this one specifically. This one, that's precision. And so that's the 就. The easiest way to think about it is 就 here works like exactly or right in English. Like that's right what I wanted. That's exactly the one. Or that's just the one. Same energy, same placement. 就 goes in that exact same spot. So let's take an example. In Mandarin, 我要的是这个. In Cantonese, 我要嘅係呢個. So 我 is 我. I, you, 要, want, 嘅, the indicates like the thing. That's a story for another video. 係是 means is, and then 这个呢個 means this. This is what I want. Now, when we add the 就 here, 我要的就是这个. 我要嘅就係呢個. Now it's saying this is exactly what I want. But what it's saying in reality is the gap between what I want and what I'm pointing at is 0. It's really close. This is like a perfect match. 我要, this is precisely what I want. Or this is right exactly what I want. And so this 就 in this case handles exactly, precisely, and right because they all mean the same thing, which means the gap between the thing and what it is that you want in this case is 0. It's super close again. Here's an example where it's more for determination, for the word for even in English. In Mandarin, 我不信学不会. In Cantonese, 我唔信學唔識. So 我 means I, 唔信不信 means basically don't believe. 學唔識 or 學不會 means like you can't learn it. So it's saying like I don't believe that this can't be learned. So now here's what happens. 我就不信学不会. In Cantonese, 我就唔信學唔識. Now it's I refuse to believe that this can't be learned. And that's your even definition, right? Even if you told me otherwise, I wouldn't believe that this can't be learned. The gap between you and your stance is so close, it's so small that nothing fits through. That's what it's saying here. The next one's a similar thing for already known. Let's take an example. In Mandarin, 我知道了. In Cantonese, 我知道了. 我愛知道 means know, and then 了 indicates basically we've achieved the state of knowing, basically. But another video on this. Now we're gonna add an expression. Okay, there's a common expression with the word 就, which is 早 or 早. 我早就知道啦. 我早就知道了. So 我愛早 early. 知道了 means basically to know. So what it's saying is I knew this all along. Not I knew this earlier, I knew this all along. And so the 就 here says the gap between when I started knowing and now is very small, it's very close. The gap between when I started knowing it and now is very close, very small. So that's exactly, precisely right, even all it's spotlight. And what it's saying is that the gap between what you mean and what you say is 0. Another example of closeness. Now, let's go to the next one. This covers merely, only, simply, and I call it the shrinker. It's implying that the gap between the amount and nothing is very close, closer to 0 than you'd expect. This one's a little bit easier than it sounds just now. Okay, so 就 here is just only 2 people. I'm only looking. In English, only goes right before the thing it's shrinking. It's only 2 people. 就 does the same thing. Same word, same spot. And it's very commonly used with small quantities. For example, in Mandarin, 两个人, Cantonese, 两个人. So 两 means 2, 个人 means people. But if we add a 就 in front, so 就两个人, 就两个人. Now here what it's saying is it's saying only 2 people. And so what it does here is that 就 says the gap between 2 and 0 is small, fewer than you'd expect. So it's such a close gap. Okay, without 就, it's a fact, 2 people. With 就, what it's saying is like only 2 people. You could say merely 2 people, simply 2 people. And so you see how that 就 handles these multiple cases. Here's another example, right? This is for kind of like minimizing. It's very commonly used for minimizing. Let me kind of explain. So in Mandarin, right? 我看看. In Cantonese, 我睇下. I'm looking, I'm just browsing, right? 我愛看看睇下 means I'll take a look. And then you add a 就,我就看看,我就睇下. Now it's more so like, I'm just looking. 我就看看而已. And say I'm just kind of looking. And so what's saying here, the 就 is saying the gap between what I'm doing and doing nothing is very small. It's minimal action. I'm just kind of doing whatever, taking a look. So this is what you do in China when you go to shops and they kind of try to come at you. 我就看看. Okay, I'm just taking a look. Okay, the gap between what I'm doing and doing nothing is very small. I'm not like seriously looking. Another very common use case is for dismissing, saying that's all. Another thing you'll see. So in Mandarin, 这样吧. In Cantonese, 咁啦. 咁啦 or 这样吧 is basically the expression that says like, it's like this then, right? Like this then. Now if we add a 就 in front of it, so 就这样吧. Cantonese, 就咁啦. Now it's saying just like this, that's all. The 就 says the gap between the situation and nothing important is small, very close gap. It's not a big deal. We're done here. You'll hear this one constantly. 就这样吧. 就咁啦. It's not a big deal. And so exactly, precisely, right, even, only, merely, simply, right? All those English definitions, once again, all closeness. So that's 19 English definitions now with the same Chinese meaning. Number 20, there are a few advanced extensions like 就我所知,就我所知, meaning as far as I know. And there's a couple more expressions that are rarer in spoken Chinese, but even then they follow the same closeness pattern, which is kind of like 就我所知,就我所知, as far as I know, right? Means the gap between what I know and the limit of my knowledge is small, it's very close. But I don't want you to focus on these ones, on number 20. We're focusing on the first 19, or basically the first 4 kind of ones we have, because those are the most popular, common ones. So let's kind of get a bit deeper now and kind of group what we learned so then we can understand when to use what and how to actually put it in and where do you actually put it in. So we have the definitions: just, already, right away, immediately, at once, soon, about to, as soon as. That's all the time magnet. Then we have then, in that case, enough, so be it. That's all the logic lock. Then we have exactly, precisely, right, even. That's all the spotlight. Then we have only, merely, simply, and that's the shrinker. Okay. Then we have the advanced ones. 20 English definitions, 4 categories, but really one Chinese meaning, meaning the gap is very small. Before we get into like kind of like how to place and how to actually use it, the important thing I want you to do is I don't want you to worry about which category it falls into, because the categories are just there to show you the pattern works everywhere. In practice, all you need to do is really ask one question, which is what's the gap and is it small? And a lot of it is gonna come, now that you understand, is basically as you hear it now, the word, you're gonna cement it more and get used to hearing it. And then you'll know, okay, that's how I use it. That's when I use it. That's a very common use case. At least now you'll know when it's used, what it's actually implying. Now, before I get into like, how do I know where to place in my sentence? How do I use it specifically, right? So I can express this closeness idea. I wanna get into one more thing, which is just like a couple very common expressions you'll see it in, where you might be like, okay, I don't see how this is expressing closeness, but then I'm gonna show you how it does. So first one is 就是. So a very common thing you'll say, this is like, let's say someone's trying to, sell to you, night market or whatever, trying to sell you some like, random crap in China. And it's like, oh, and you'd be like, oh, okay, 我觉得很好. I think it's really good. 就是有点贵. I think it's really good, but it's a little expensive. Okay? What it's saying here is that the gap between the problem and nothing is small. There's not really much of a problem. The only issue is the price, right? You see, it's the same pattern. It's shrinker in disguise. It's just minimizing the problem and saying that the only problem is the fact that it's expensive. Same pattern here. Second common usage is basically 就是. People very commonly use it as a kind of filler word, right? I do it all the time actually. That's just a filler word, don't worry about it. So 就是这个, just filler word. Next very common example, okay, and there's a couple more common examples, but let's be honest with this video. Now, the next most common example that you'll encounter pretty frequently is 就算. So an example is 就算你不来,我也会去. So in Cantonese, 就算你唔嚟,我都會去. So 就算, 就算, same expression, even if, 你唔嚟, 你不來, you're not coming, 我都會去, 我也會去, I'm still gonna go. So even if you don't come, I'll still go. So what's that 就 doing here? Well, what it's saying here is that the gap between the worst case scenario and my position is very close. So it's saying that 就算你不來,我也會去. So even if you don't go, I'm still going, right? The gap between the worst case scenario, which is if you don't go, I'm still gonna go. It's the same kind of spotlight position, it's just in a different case. And notice, 就算 literally has 就 right inside it. Even in compound phrases, the 就 goes in the same position, right before the thing is describing. Now, last one, before I get into like when to use it and how to use it in a sentence, you hear words like 成就, for example, which means like your results. And those are vocabulary words, not nouns, but even then it still has the meaning of close. But those are nouns, not function words, which is what we're focusing on today. So we're not gonna look at those like specific vocabulary words, because the vocabulary words you can just think of as like, okay, the word for results is 成就, and it's easy, you know what I mean? This is the one that people get stuck on, not vocabulary words. Anyway, so you understand understand the closeness pattern, but how do you actually place 就 in a sentence? Where does it actually sit? In English, well, where does the word just go? I just arrived. I just want this one. It's just two people, always right before the thing it's describing. 就 works the same way. It goes right before whatever it's modifying, usually the verb. 我待会就过来，我一阵就过来。就 goes right before 过来 or 过来 the verb. 我就看看 I'm just taking a look. 就 comes before 看看。我找睇下 before the verb here. And so it's a very similar instinct as English, where it's just in the same spot as just. Now there's one case where it looks different, which is 就两个人. Okay, no verb. 就 sits before the number, but same logic. It's right before the thing it's describing. And that answers the question from the beginning, which is why does 我待会就过来 need that 就? And the reason why is because it shrinks the time gap. Same spot as I'm just coming. I'm just heading out right now. And so I hope that's helpful for you guys. Now 就 is a very, very abstract concept, especially for English speakers. And so this one's one of the trickier ones because it's so common in Chinese, like literally you'll hear it every day, but it's so abstract for an English speaker. And so I want you to, what you do is hopefully if you're a Cantonese speaker watching this, I mean, get the guide. It's super helpful and really like don't even bother understanding everything I mentioned here. Just literally when using Cantonese, use it in Mandarin. But if not, right, think about really closely the fact of the idea of closeness, but still tie yourself to all those English definitions, right? Tie yourself to those, but understand that rooted behind all that is the fact that it's just rooted in closeness. So hope that was helpful. Very tough topic, but hope it was helpful. I really hope it was. Click here now if you're a Cantonese speaker who wants to learn Mandarin faster and easier, and otherwise click here for video you think you'll love. Also, by the way, there's a lot of assumed knowledge in this video of la, of result complements and all those things. Check out other videos that will kind of explain more if you need that. Oh yeah, and until next time, 再见。